对酒当歌，人生几何？譬如朝露，去日苦多。Oh, guys, what's going on, guys? It looks like you guys caught me reciting my Chinese poetry on my free time. Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Mark from SolarGames, and today, very exciting time. We're going to talk about episode 2 of the Mortal Ambition lore video. So today, we have some new cards, and of course, I literally make episode 1, and on the night of, or the day of the video being released, a lot of my speculations actually were proven wrong because, of course, we now have, very importantly, Wu, the other province that I was talking about, that's like on the side, on the eastern side, southeast, is now in play. So, very exciting news. Yes, officially, AMB will have Wu representation as well, and their color, as expected, is going to be red. Of course, red is the color that's generally given to this faction in Three Kingdoms, so that is actually pretty perfect and definitely on point for our story ahead. Okay, so we have some cool cards that we're going to be talking about today. So we're going to talk about some of the Wu cards that were revealed today. We're going to talk about a specific card that was also revealed and my guess on what that character that's represented in the card is. It's kind of fun. And of course, as promised in the last video, we're going to talk about who JIN is and my theory on who is actually JIN. Okay? So let's first get started with the first card of the day. It's going to be Xiao Qiao. So Xiao Qiao is now revealed, right? Xiao Qiao, the Cinder Keeper, okay? Pretty cool artwork, right? And the longest type line you'll ever see in your life. Unique ally, assassin tamer, animal, human, cat. Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, at this point, I don't think they could put another type on that line without squishing all the characters. We already got there. By set 5 of Grand Archive, we already have so many, ally type that we can't fit onto a card anymore, okay? But yeah, so a couple things to talk about here for this card. Wu is in play. As you can see, they're very represented by the color red, and it's very uniquely that they have this kind of feeling of maybe like the animal, the tamer, the cat girl type of thing, but also, weirdly, maybe, assassins? So they're like tamer assassins or animal assassins, which is kind of cool, right? So that is actually very, very interesting. So I don't know exactly what that means, but it is what it is. So it looks like now if we see a character with like cat ears or like animal stuff, then we know they're from the kingdom of Wu. Wu, okay? Who is Xiao Qiao? So let's talk about a little bit about this person, right? She is the wife of Zhou Yu, another very famous Wu general from the Three Kingdoms. In fact, the fact that she's printed on the card now pretty much confirms that Zhou Yu will also get a card within this set, which I'm very excited about because this is one of my favorite characters from all of Three Kingdoms as well. So now I can see this. Xiao Qiao is actually one of 2 great beauties of the Wu Kingdom. Her and her sister, Da Qiao. Or in Chinese, by the way, Xiao Qiao and Da Qiao literally means xiao, small, qiao, and Da means big, qiao. And elder sister, younger sister, right? Of the Qiao, that's her last name, family. That's why they're called Xiao Qiao and Da Qiao. Da Qiao is the wife of Sun Ce. So that is Sun Quan, the eventual ruler of Wu's elder brother who died, unfortunately, prematurely, okay? So, Xiao Qiao. This also means that probably Da Qiao is also in the set, which means very likely Sun Ce is in the set. So there's a lot of Wu representation. Just from this one card, I can already tell you there's going to be quite a few Wu characters that will be represented here. Are they all going to be girls? Are they all going to be anime cat girls? We don't know. But so far, looks like at least the girls are going to be cats, which is kind of fun, right? So let's talk about some fun facts of Xiao Qiao too, right? So one of the coolest things that happened inside of Three Kingdom is that there was the Battle of Chibi, Red Cliff, right? So if you know about the Battle of Red Cliff, you know that it was the Shu and the Wu alliance against Cao. And so what happened here was actually Ming was trying to get Zhou Yu, so Xiao Qiao's husband, to fight with Shu against Cao. But Zhou Yu was very, very reluctant. He didn't want to go to battle. So one of the strategies that Zhuge Liang, Ming, basically utilized here was to essentially bait Zhou Yu into this battle by saying, hey man, it's cool, you don't need to go fight. All you have to do really is to give up, the two beauties of Wu, and then Cao Cao will not fight you anymore. He will give you a peace treaty. And he did this knowing that the two beauties of Wu, Da Qiao and Xiao Qiao, are the wives of Zhou Yu and, Sun Ce. So it's kind of like the point was to bait him into this whole conversation, to bait Zhou Yu into hating Cao Cao, right, for trying to take his wife. And then so, of course, they go to war. It's one of the really cool, fun little factoids of this era. The other guess I have is I think the card Lost Wisdom is actually depicting Zhou Yu. So I think now that we know the red color is Wu, I think that character looks like Zhou Yu. On to the next card. Fiery Swing. First of all, this card is pretty fucking sick, right? It's basically like a booga wooga, swing hard fire card, okay? But aside from that, one of the cool things about this card is that there is a very interesting character depicted on this card, right? Somebody who's holding a very, very interesting looking blade. Now, this blade, if you recall, looks really similar to Guan Yu's blade. For those of the people who know what kind of Guan Yu's blade looks like, it looks similar. Two things, right? Number one, Guan Yu's blade is usually a little bit more adorned with other symbols, usually like a dragon or something on there, right? That's the whole point. And basically where it's like, the Guan Yu's blade looks like where the head is, the hilt of the blade is like a dragon's head, and then its tongue is kind of like the blade itself, right? Kind of think about it from that perspective. So this one's not quite like that. It's not a very fancy blade. And the character depicted on the artwork has blue clothing. So my original guess, of course, seeing the blade, just immediately looking at what the card does, it does a lot of damage. I'm thinking, okay, this is Guan Yu, right? But there's a couple problems. Number one, because the color doesn't match. The color is blue or purple, which is, again, like we said in the last video, it's going to be the color of Wei, right? Again, the creators don't have to dictate color specifically to a faction, but it does help players kind of remember that better. So in a lot of ways, this is probably intentional by the creators to have the colors match very well to the faction. So in this case, this character being blue definitely gives me the idea that this is very likely a Cao Cao's general, which then goes into my guess. Now, Cao Cao has 5 very, very strong, what he called his tiger generals. And out of all of them, I think this person very, very likely is Zhang Liao. And if it is, again, one of my favorite characters from Sanguo as well. Zhang Liao is, fun fact, Zhang Liao is a friend of Guan Yu. In fact, they're very good friends. They're not just like normal friends. They're like very good friends, like drinking buddy level friends, right? And it will be super poetic if Zhang Liao was depicted in this picture, because Zhang Liao also has like the same blade as Guan Yu. That'd be kind of fun, right? If they're really close friends and they use similar weapons and they use similar battle tactics and styles. Zhang Liao, like Guan Yu, is also very well known for being very honorable, right? Righteous and fighting like for what they believe to be right. So that matches kind of like that quote on the card as well. To end the sacrifices, we must end the war, right? So to unify China, to unify Sanguo, the 3 kingdoms into one, right? That if we unify the 3 kingdoms, then we will end all of the sacrificing of people fighting each other, whatever. So it's kind of cool. All right, that's my theory on Fiery Swing. We'll find out soon once we see the character of who this person is. Okay, on to the meat of today's video. Who is JIN? Okay, so we know from the dev update, right, that Bell mentioned this idea that any champion that we have from the game is from the Grand Archive.
Something that you can infer is that any champion that we have in this game is from something called the Grand Archive. I believe that that's been pretty well established already.
And the Grand Archive is effectively like this giant portal, this homeworld, this other place where all these champions kind of come from, right? So the way that the lore kind of Grand Archive runs is that the Grand Archive sends these champions into fractured worlds that have issues, and then the heroes go there and then they help heal the fractures and they help heal the world. And I'm assuming once they finish that job, they go back to the Grand Archive to be sent on a different mission to a different place, right? So all the champions are from the Grand Archive. They can essentially portal to all these multiverse worlds. Sangguo is one of the multiverse. Cambria, like the Arthurian legend one, is another one. And of course, we have like the world from Alchemical Revolution being a third world so far that we know about, okay? But the other thing you have to think about, if you ever read the Lorraine lore from like the first set, Lorraine actually comes from a world too. So, which kind of gives me this idea. If you ever watch the anime Fate, all of the characters of Fate, the champions of Fate, which by the way, this game draws heavily from Fate. It's pretty obvious, right? But the champions of Fate also come from a different world. And they also live their own mortal lives somewhere else, right? So when they die in Fate, they go back into this whatever nebulous place where they can be summoned, called forth again. However, they also, all of them had their own individual lives where they did a lot of things, which made them basically be epic enough to be a champion of this world. So in a similar way, right? If we think about Grand Archive as the place where kind of these champion souls live for eternity, they also live their full life. The thing about Koming is actually from Sangguo, right? Like not the one that's depicted in Mortal Ambition Sangguo, but maybe in universe there is like another, I don't know, China, whatever, historical, right? And that's where Koming actually comes from, or something else, right? And then Koming lived that full life as that person, and then is now in the Grand Archive. Now they're being sent from the Grand Archive to go fix some things that's happening in Sangguo, right? And so, again, if we think about it from this perspective, right, if we apply this theory, right, then that means JIN must work the same way. Meaning JIN is also another champion that essentially lived their full life somewhere else, right, and is now being sent into Sangguo to go save the population. Now, remember what I said about Koming being part of Sangguo. When you think about this theory, right, you think about it from the perspective of like, could this person, Koming, be actually like, when you look at history, right, as is written, you think about like it being locked in place, that the history is already done. Everything is already, all the events set in motion have already happened. And Koming, right, this guy, in history was very well known for being, I don't know, like divine, heavenly. He did a lot of like really cool stuff that people thought were very like magical, godly, right? Ascendant, if you will. And so could it be Grand Archive's reimagining of Sangguo is that these characters who did like extraordinary things are in fact not from Sangguo, but because they joined the multiverse, they wrote their histories into that multiverse. Meaning, like, for example, Koming, if like one alternate reality like way of thinking about Koming is, what if Koming is like a god descended upon ancient China to go help solve these problems, right? Kind of thing, right? So in a similar way, JIN is also a god descended on ancient China, which also makes him possibly one of the characters in Sangguo. Okay, so bear with me here, okay? What color is JIN's clothing? Now, in level 1, level 2, he has like kind of like blue, a little bit green, or mostly green and a little bit red, right? But level 3, he is very, very red because of Exia. Now, when you think about red and what we talked about here in this whole entire like conversation, red is the color of Wu, okay? There is, so, looking at like kind of like all of the Sangguo characters, there is kind of only one person that has a name that is very similar to JIN in the universe of Sangguo, okay? And that is Zhou Yu. So Zhou Yu's given name, which by the way, it's very complicated here because ancient China, right? People are kind of have like given names, and then they have like kind of a stylistic name. Is this effectively a good example? Here is Koming, right? So Koming's name, that's his stylistic name. His actual given name is Zhuge Liang. Okay, Zhuge Liang is his name, and then his stylistic name is Koming. So technically, you can call him also Zhuge Koming. That's another way to say it. Another example would be like Guan Yu, right? Guan Yu is his like given name, if you will, or official name, and then his stylistic name is Yun Chang. So you can also call him Guan Yun Chang. That's also Guan Yu. Okay. So Zhou Yu, in the case of Zhou Yu's given, or his normal name is Zhou Yu, but his actual stylistic name is Gong Jin. So you can also call Zhou Yu Zhou Gong Jin. Notice that last character, Jin, just like Jin. So the theory right now is that the husband of Xiaoqiao is actually Jin. Okay. Now here's why. Reason number one, we already talked about the name. The name is the same. Number two, the look. I think immediately when this character dropped, right, a lot of I guess all the credit goes to the Taiwanese, one of my Taiwanese friends named Fish. He kind of alluded me to this hint of like, hey, could Jin be Gongjin, Zhou Yu? The look, he looks like Zhou Yu, okay? Number three, he's also kind of like the arch enemy of Koming in a lot of ways, right? We talked about this a little earlier, but Zhou Yu and Koming are kind of like, they're friends, but they're frenemies. They kind of like each other's intelligence, but they kind of hate each other because both are very smart. They're arch enemies. So what a great way to set up a starter deck where you have like one side and the other side, right? And the thing is also, Zhou Yu, Zhou Gongjing, is also really well known for being a badass warrior. So he's really smart, but unlike Zhuge Liang, he is a fighter. He's not a mage or a caster, if you will, right? He's just like straight up like really good at fighting, but also super good at strategy, stratagem, etc. So that's another key element of why Jin is a fighter, right? So this is also, again, more ties into this whole thing. Number five is a little bit of a stretch, but if you think about it, right? Gongjing in the story of Sanguo is well known for his temper, meaning he does not have a good temper, right? He gets angry at very many little things, and in fact, it gets him so angry it hurts his health. The way it's very easy to rile him up, essentially, right? It actually kind of fits into the whole self-damage part because he would get so angry that he would hurt himself, and he essentially, at the end of the story, he died because he literally died of anger. Like somebody riled him up so much, he started spitting blood and died. Straight up, that's how he died. It's like kind of crazy. And he died pretty young, right? So there's another part of it too. He died really young, that's the part where it does not fit the whole character of like Jin with Exia, where he's immortal, right? However, this is, again, we're pushing this a little bit, but if we stretch it, right, it could be that Jin died young, right? But in the alternate Three Kingdoms, then he was reborn into the Grand Archive as a champion, and this reformed him, this ascension, this reformation made him overcome his one weakness, which is that he died young, and he actually got immortality from it. So that is theory number one, which the more I think about it, the more I see that Wu is now in play in the set. I actually think this theory has a lot of legs. Okay, number two theory, and this is my personal theory, when I saw Jin and I thought about immortality, Exia, I was thinking about another very famous character in Chinese history named Qin Shi Huangdi, which is the first emperor, right? Basically. This is my theory because, again, this is the character that I can think of in Chinese history that really sought after immortality, right? This person was also a badass warrior. He fought and unified his own country at the age of 13. So he became the king of Qin at age 13, right? And then he went on to conquer and unite all of China by the age of 39, 38, okay? Badass. Like, he's really good at fighting. And he basically, in a very similar way, he has like a big temper issue. And he's one of those characters where it's like you kind of don't want to mess with him because he just kind of like can just, willy-nilly kill you for no reason, right? He's not a good guy, effectively, but he is a badass, okay? So he also died fairly young. The reason's because he was seeking immortality, right? The real reason why he died is very not well known, but towards the end of his life, after he became emperor, he was searching all across China for immortality, like ways to live longer. I guess maybe he had some like insecurities about his health or whatever, so he was seeking this stuff out, right? And what it was said is that he was being fed like mercury as one of the elixirs of immortality, and this mercury could have killed him because back then they probably didn't know mercury was poison, right? They just said, hey, like it looks cool, looks like it's probably immortal, go ahead and drink it. So this guy's ingesting mercury and probably just died of mercury poisoning, right? Again, that's my theory, and of course this makes it so that like he was seeking immortality. Maybe in the alternate universe of Grand Archive, he found it, and now he's coming into Sanguo to like, I don't know, do some other stuff, right? And the age he comes from is called the Warring States. It's a couple like, it's about, let's see, like about 400, 500 years before Three Kingdoms. So, but it was also a very like, like a chaotic time with many, many different kingdoms of China divided. So that is another theory that who Jin could be. So at the very minimum, there's two theories there, right, of who this character could be. I think both have a lot of like possibilities here. And I guess we'll have to see the rest of the set to really find out, right? Maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe there's some, weight to this whole possibility here. Who knows? For next episode, we're going to talk about Zhuge Liang's younger sister or younger adopter sister, as who could that be? Who's the possible character of this artwork? All right, that's going to do it for me for today. I'm Mark from Solar Games. I'll see you next time. Stay classy.